Did we say Nikon? Did we say new Nikon Z50 Mark II? You're in the right place. Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Thomas Love here from One Lens Only, and today we're gonna talk about this Z50 Mark II that has just been announced and released. People are already shooting with that to show us the goods, the bads, the not so good and not so bad, and all the new news compared to the original Z50 that was fairly compact, while this one is a bit thicker, is a bit bigger, larger, higher, and a bit thicker. It doesn't really change in the battery life because it's still reusable life, so you're supposed to have plenty of those in your pockets, but it's a good camera. Now, let's talk about the goods and the bads, because this camera, despite being an APS-c sensor, which is the entry point for aspiring to be photographers, I know many photographers are fond of their Fuji, which is APS-c, so it's a totally different choice here. But if you are a professional photographer, you might want to go to full frame. And so now with this very interesting camera, someone said it's a mini Z6 Mark III. It is not. With this camera, I guess, but this is just my humble opinion, that Nikon tries to get some users out from Fuji, because once you enter the system and you are with Nikon, well, you tend to stay there even if your needs evolve. So assuming you are switching from APS-c to full frame anytime soon in the next few months, years, you will be already within the Nikon system. So that's a good catch for Nikon. And then I see that there are many things that come from other brands that have been implemented, and this tells me something about the needs of this target of people that are not professional. So let's say amateur photographers, but pro-amateur or prosumer as they define them, that now want to have an APS-c sensor. Of course, they want to have face detect because it's easier, it helps you a lot. They all want to have film simulations, and so assuming that Fuji started it with that film simulation that became also popular because you have filters, basically LUTs, implemented already in the camera. You don't need to use those crappy filters from Instagram. Well, now they became something. They became a standard because Panasonic implemented it in the S9 and also Nikon implemented it in this Z50 Mark II because there's a specific button on top of the camera if you want to change or cook your recipe or download the LUTs from the server from Nikon that other creators use. But apart from that, guys, well, it's always the great Z-mount. It's always the beautiful Nikon color science. And I have to say, I'm a bit disappointed because it doesn't have IBIS integrated in the camera. And so this is a similar choice to the Fuji XM5. That is a super compact and small camera, but with no IBIS. I mean, either you have a digital tape as good as DJI, but DJI is part of the M-mount, or it's just a worthless camera. Because nowadays, let's face it, we all want hybrid mirrorless. So when we are out there shooting our photos, if you want to record a video or a slow-mo or whatever, we want to be able to do that, but we don't want to spend money and go around with a gimbal, which is big, which is heavy, which is expensive. So we need the stabilization within the camera. So now Fuji solved it partially with the kit lens, with the optical stabilization integrated. Nikon, you have a wide choice of glasses to be used with that, but I have to say this Z50 Mark II might be good enough to go around casually. It's not going to be any professional choice unless it's a second camera. So I would use it as a second camera just to have 2 points to shoot my videos. So you have 2 different cameras, but then if you have 2, you want to have the same system. So probably it's going to be a good second camera for people that are using already the Z6 Mark III, let's face it, or the Z8. If I had a Z8, I would use a Z6 Mark III as a second camera, so I have the one specific for photos and stills and the one dedicated to videos. But the Z50 Mark II, it's good enough. So I hope I will have the chance to find one here around before Christmas, take it for a spin, see if it is as familiar as it is, because I'm very familiar with Nikon. I loved the brand. I loved my D750, which I used for many years. When I became a pro, I was using that camera, and I was using Nikon Prime's F-mount, of course. Z-mount was not a thing yet. Mirrorless cameras were not a thing yet. There were a few Sony here around, but Nikon, it still has a place here with me, and I would be more than happy to test it. But on the list, I have, of course, the Z6 Mark III to be tested, and then the Z8 as well. I'm gonna probably to test out the Z8 next year, when I'm going for a safari, but stay tuned because we're gonna review all these Nikon cameras and glasses together. So for now, let's say that Z50 Mark II, it's a good enough camera for a reasonable price, and so the target that they are hitting with that camera probably are users that are not purchasing Fuji. They will have a Nikon instead. I don't know if Canon has a good offer for that product price range, but I assume they do, as they do with Sony for the APS-C cameras, the Alpha 6600, 6700. They are more than capable. So nowadays, 2024, whatever brand you pick up, you can only do good. And this Z50 Mark II is supposed to be a great choice. So with that, I hope you got some value out of this video. If you did, please remember to like it, share it on your social media, subscribe to the channel so you won't miss the videos to come, and I guess I will see you later. Thank you. Bye-bye.